Commander Hyunwoo rubbed his tired eyes and stared at the green glow of his computer screen. 3 years. 3 long years of floating through empty space, looking at dead rocks and gas clouds. The UES Horizon's Edge was supposed to be humanity's greatest ship, but right now it felt more like a very expensive prison. The communications bay hummed quietly around him. Banks of computers listened to radio waves from distant stars, searching for anything interesting. Most days, they found nothing but static and the natural noise of space. Today felt like it would be the same. "Still awake, Commander?" So-min walked into the room, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She was the ship's language expert, the person who would talk to aliens if they ever found any. After 3 years, that seemed less likely every day. "Someone has to watch the radios," Hyunwoo said, taking the coffee gratefully. "What if we miss the one day aliens decide to call?" So-min laughed. "At this point, I'd be happy if we found a weather report from a planet with clouds." She sat down at her workstation and started her daily check of the listening equipment. The ship had 300 people on board. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, and explorers. They had enough food and fuel for 5 years of travel. The plan was simple. Fly to the edge of human space and see what was out there. Maybe find new planets to live on. Maybe discover something amazing. So far, they had found 17 dead worlds and a lot of empty space. Captain Jin's voice came through the speakers. "Morning shift, this is your captain. Remember, we're not just explorers today. We're the eyes and ears of humanity. Every star we check, every signal we hear, brings us closer to understanding our place in the universe." Hyunwoo smiled. "Captain, Jin-ai never gave up hope. Even after 3 years of nothing, she still believed they would find something important. It was one of the reasons her crew loved her." "Contact!" So-min suddenly shouted, making Hyunwoo spill his coffee. "I'm getting something weird here." Hyunwoo rolled his chair over to her station. On her screen, a wavy line moved up and down in a steady pattern. It looked like normal space noise, but something was different. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "This signal started about 10 minutes ago," So-min said, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "At first I thought it was just star noise, but look at this." She pointed to numbers on her screen. "The pattern repeats every 47 seconds. Natural signals don't do that." Hyunwoo felt his heart start beating faster. A repeating signal meant intelligence. It meant someone was out there trying to talk. Where is it coming from? "That's the strange part," So-min frowned. "The signal is coming from outside our galaxy. Way outside. I'm talking about 47 light years from here, in a direction where we've never seen any signs of life." 47 light years. Hyunwoo whistled. "That's impossible. No one has technology that can send signals that far." "Well, someone does," So-min said. "And Commander, there's something else. The signal is getting weaker. Whatever is sending this, it won't last much longer." Within an hour, half the ship's crew was crowded into the communications bay. Captain Jin stood behind So-min's chair, watching the alien signal dance across the computer screen. Tae-hyung, the chief engineer, was trying to boost their receivers to get a clearer signal. Yoonji, who studied alien cultures, was taking notes even though they had never met any aliens to study. "Can you understand any of it?" Captain Jin asked. So-min shook her head. "It's not like any language I've ever seen, but it's definitely intelligent. Look at this part." She pointed to a section of the signal. "These are prime numbers. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. Any species smart enough for space travel would know prime numbers." "What about this section?" Yoonji pointed to another part of the screen. "I think those are coordinates," So-min said. "Star positions, maybe. And this part here?" She paused, looking worried. "I think it's a countdown." "A countdown to what?" Captain Jin asked. "I don't know. But if I'm reading this right, it ends in about 72 hours. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that might mean. Someone was in trouble, and they had 3 days to either get help or die trying. Tae-hyung looked up from his equipment. "Captain, I've got more of the signal now. There's a lot of information here. Star charts, what looks like scientific data, even what might be historical records." "Historical records?" Yoonji leaned forward. "Can you show me?" Tae-hyung put the new data on the main screen. Complex patterns flowed across the display, too fast for human eyes to follow. But buried in the chaos, some patterns were starting to make sense. So-min gasped. "Oh no! Oh, this is bad!" "What is it?" Captain Jin-A demanded. "This isn't just a call for help," So-min said, her voice shaking. "This is a last message. Someone is dying, and they're trying to tell the universe what happened to them before they're gone forever." Yoonji was studying the patterns on her own screen. "Captain, I think I understand part of this. These symbols, they're showing the death of worlds. Lots of worlds. An entire civilization is ending, and they're using their last power to warn others. The weight of that hit everyone in the room. Somewhere, 47 light years away, billions of people were about to die, and their final act was to send a message into space, hoping someone would hear their last words. How long would it take us to get there? Captain Jin-A asked quietly. Tae-hyung checked his computers. At maximum jump speed, 36 hours. But Captain, that would use almost all our fuel. We'd barely have enough to get home. And we don't know what we'd find when we got there, added Woo Jin, the tactical officer. Could be a war zone, could be a plague, could be something that kills whole civilizations. Min Ho, the navigation officer, was already running calculations. The jump would be dangerous too. We'd have to push our engines past safe limits. If something goes wrong, we could end up lost in space. Captain Jin-A stared at the alien signal on the screen. The countdown now showed 71 hours and 53 minutes. Whatever was happening to these people, it was happening fast. "Captain," So-min said softly, "there's something else in the signal. I think they're trying to tell us not to come." "What do you mean?" "Part of the message keeps repeating the same idea over and over. Stay away. Don't follow this signal. Save yourselves. They don't want us to try to help them." Young Soo, the ship's doctor, spoke up from the back of the room. "Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe whatever killed their civilization would kill us too." Captain Jin-A looked around the room at her crew. 300 people who had volunteered to fly into the unknown. 300 people who trusted her to make the right decisions. 300 people whose lives she was responsible for. The signal continued to pulse on the screen. 71 hours and 47 minutes. "I need to think about this," Captain Jin-A said finally. "All department heads, meet me in the conference room in 1 hour. Everyone else, keep monitoring that signal. I want to know everything we can. Learn about these people before we decide what to do." As the crowd left the communications bay, Hyun-woo stayed behind with So-min. They watched the alien countdown together, both thinking the same thing. Someone out there was about to die, and they were the only ones who knew about it. "What do you think the captain will decide?" So-min asked. Hyun-woo thought about Captain Jin-A. He had served under her for 5 years. He knew how she thought, how she made decisions. She cared about rules and regulations, but she cared about people more. "I think," he said slowly, "we're about to take a very dangerous trip." The signal pulsed again. 71 hours and 31 minutes. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, someone was calling for help. And despite every rule that said they should stay away, despite every logical reason to ignore the signal, Hyun-woo knew his captain would answer that call. Because that's what humans did. When someone was in trouble, humans helped. Even if it was dangerous, even if it was stupid, even if it might get them all killed. The signal kept counting down, and the UES Horizon's Edge flew on through the night, carrying 300 people toward a decision that would change everything. The conference room felt smaller than usual, with all the department heads crammed inside. Captain Jin-A sat at the head of the table, looking at each of her officers. The alien countdown had dropped to 68 hours, and everyone knew they were running out of time to make a decision. "Report," Captain Jin-A said simply. So-min spoke first. "I've decoded more of the signal. The species calls themselves the Villani. They've been sending us their entire history, their science, everything they know. It's like they're trying to preserve their civilization in a message." "What happened to them?" asked Young-soo. "Something is eating their star," So-min said grimly. "Not naturally. Something built by machines. The Villani have been fighting it for years, but they're losing. Their star is dying, and when it goes out, their planets will freeze." Tae-hyung pulled up a hologram in the center of the table. "Based on their data, I've created a model of what we might find. The hologram showed a solar system with a large metal sphere wrapped around the star. Long arms reached out from the sphere, drawing material from the star into the metal structure. "That thing is huge," Wu Jin said. "It must be thousands of kilometers across." "The Villani call it a stellar devourer," So Min continued. "It's not alive, it's a machine, but it learns and adapts. Every time the Villani try to fight it, it gets stronger." Minho had been quiet during the briefing, but now he spoke up. "Captain, I've run the navigation calculations 3 times. If we're going to help these people, we have to leave in the next 6 hours. Any later, and we won't arrive before their countdown reaches 0. "What about the risks?" Captain Jin-A asked. "High," Tae-hyung admitted. "We'll have to push our jump drive beyond recommended limits. There's a 15% chance of engine failure during the jump. If that happens, we'll be stranded between galaxies with no way home. And if we make it there safely, we'll have enough fuel for maybe 2 days of operations before we have to start the return journey," Minho said. "That's not much time to save an entire civilization." Yoonji had been studying her tablet throughout the meeting. "Captain, there's something else. The Villani have been monitoring space around their system. This stellar devourer isn't alone. They've detected similar machines in at least 12 other star systems. Whatever built these things, they're spreading across the galaxy." The room fell silent as everyone realized what that meant. This wasn't just about saving the Villani. If these machines kept spreading, they could eventually reach human space. "Recommendations?" Captain Jin-A asked. Young-Soo shook his head. "From a medical standpoint, this is suicide. We don't know what we'll find there. Could be radiation, diseases, hostile environment. We're not equipped for a major rescue operation." "From a tactical perspective, it's even worse," Wu Jin added. "One ship against a machine that's been defeating an entire civilization? We'd be like a mosquito attacking a tank." "Engineering says it's possible but dangerous," Tae-hyung said. "We can make the jump, but we might not make it back." Minho nodded. "Navigation agrees. We can get there, but the return trip will be risky with low fuel reserves." All eyes turned to Captain Jin-A. She stared at the hologram of the stellar devourer, thinking about the billions of Villani who would die if no one helped them. "What does your gut tell you, So Min?" the captain asked. "You've been listening to their signal longer than anyone." So Min took a deep breath. "They're not asking us to save them, Captain. Their message keeps saying, 'Stay away, don't come here, save yourselves.' But," she paused, "I think they're wrong. I think they've given up because they've been fighting this thing the same way for years. Maybe what they need is a fresh perspective. A human perspective," Yoonji added quietly. Captain Jin-A stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, stars stretched away in all directions. Somewhere out there, the Villani were watching their star die. "I've been thinking about why we're out here," she said finally. "Earth Command sent us to explore, to find new worlds, to represent humanity in the galaxy. Well, this is our chance to do all 3. She turned back to her officers. "If we leave now, and something happens to the Villani, we'll spend the rest of our lives wondering if we could have helped. And if these stellar devourers keep spreading, other species will face the same fate. Maybe even humans, someday." Wu Jin frowned. "Captain, regulations clearly state that we shouldn't risk the ship for unconfirmed alien contacts." "Regulations also say we should provide aid to anyone in distress," Captain Jin-A replied. "And last I checked, an entire civilization about to be wiped out qualifies as distress." She looked around the table at each of her officers. "I'm not ordering anyone to come with me. This is volunteer only. Anyone who wants to transfer to escape pods can do so. We'll drop you at the nearest human outpost on our way back." No one moved. "Are you sure about this?" Young-Soo asked. "No," Captain Jinny said honestly, "but I'm sure about who we are. We're humans. When someone sends out a distress call, we answer. Even if it's dangerous, even if it's stupid, especially if everyone else says it's impossible." Minho was already pulling up star charts. "I'll start plotting the jump coordinates. Tae-hyung, I want those engines ready to go in 4 hours," Captain Jin-A ordered. "Push them as hard as you need to, but make sure we can get there in one piece." "Yes, Captain." "So Min, keep monitoring their signal. I want to know everything about these Villani before we arrive. Their culture, their technology, their weaknesses, everything. Already on it, Captain. Wu Jin, start thinking about tactics. How do you fight something that learns from every attack? I have some ideas, the tactical officer said grimly. Most of them are crazy. Good. Crazy might be exactly what we need. 4 hours later, the UES Horizon's Edge was ready for the longest jump in human history. The crew had voted unanimously to attempt the rescue. Even the people who thought it was a bad idea still wanted to try. Minho's voice came over the ship's communication system. All hands, prepare for jump. This is going to be a rough one. In the engine room, Tae-hyung watched his instruments carefully. The jump drive was running at 120% capacity, well beyond safe limits. Red warning lights flashed all around him, but the engines were holding steady. Jump drive charging, he announced. 60 seconds to jump. On the bridge, Captain Jin-A strapped herself into her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew made final preparations. The view screen showed the stars ahead of them, soon to be replaced by a view of an alien solar system. 30 seconds, Minho called out. So-min checked her equipment one last time. The Villani signal was getting weaker. Their countdown now showed 64 hours and 12 minutes. If everything went perfectly, they would arrive with about 28 hours to spare. 10 seconds. Hyunwoo gripped his chair arms. He had been through dozens of jumps, but never one like this. Never a jump into the complete unknown toward aliens who might be dead before they arrived. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jump! The stars vanished. For a moment that felt like forever, the UES Horizon's Edge existed between spaces, traveling faster than light through dimensions humans barely understood. Emergency lights flickered as the ship's systems strained against forces that could tear apart reality itself. Then, suddenly, they were somewhere else. Jump complete, Minho announced, his voice shaky. All systems, wait! He stared at his instruments in confusion. Captain, you need to see this. The main view screen flickered to life, showing them their destination. What they saw made everyone on the bridge gasp in horror. The Villani star was surrounded by a massive metal shell, just like in their projections. But it was worse than they had imagined. The star itself was dim and red, clearly dying. 3 planets orbited in the distance, their surfaces dark and frozen. My God, Young-soo whispered. But it was Woo Jin who spotted the real problem. Captain, look at the edge of the system. Those aren't asteroids. Captain Jin-A enhanced the view. Dozens of objects were moving toward them from the outer system. As the image cleared, they could see that each object was another stellar devourer, smaller than the one around the star, but still enormous. They're heading straight for us, Woo Jin said. Estimated time to intercept, 4 hours. So-min's equipment suddenly came alive with signals. Captain, I'm getting transmissions from the 3rd planet. The Villani know we're here. They're begging us to leave. They say we can't help them, and now we're going to die too. Captain Jin-A stared at the approaching machines. Her ship had traveled 47 light-years to answer a distress call, and now they were trapped in a system full of planet-killing machines. Well, she said finally, we wanted to find aliens. Mission accomplished. Tae-hyung's voice crackled over the intercom. Captain, jump drive is completely drained. Even if we had somewhere to go, we can't leave the system for at least 12 hours. So we're stuck here until those things reach us, Hyunwoo said. Captain Jin-A nodded. Looks like it. Woo Jin, how long do we have before the first devourer reaches us? 3 hours, 57 minutes. And how long until their star dies completely? So-min checked the Villani transmissions. 63 hours, 41 minutes. So we have about 4 hours to figure out how to defeat machines that an entire civilization couldn't stop, or we all die together. Captain Jin-A looked at Hyunwoo with interest. Explain what you mean by fighting fair. Before Hyunwoo could answer, So-min's equipment lit up with incoming transmissions. Captain, the Villani are trying to talk to us directly now. I'm putting it through the main speakers. The bridge filled with a voice speaking in musical tones. So-min worked quickly to translate, and within minutes her computer was converting the alien words into English. Unknown ship. This is Villani Defense Command. You must leave immediately. The Devourers will destroy you as they have destroyed us. Please, save yourselves while you still can. Captain Jin-A activated the reply system. Villani Defense Command. This is Captain Jin-A of the human ship Horizon's Edge. We received your distress signal. We're here to help. There was a long pause before the Villani voice returned, now filled with what sounded like disbelief. You came here to help us? Why would you risk your lives for strangers? Because that's what we do, Captain Jin A said, simply. While the conversation continued, Dongmin, a young engineer, was studying the sensor readings of the approaching stellar devourers. Something about their movement pattern caught his attention. Commander Hyunwoo, he called out. Look at this data. These machines aren't just moving randomly toward us. Hyunwoo came over to look at Dongmin's screen. What am I seeing? The devourers are following a specific pattern. They move in formation, they communicate with each other, and they respond to threats in predictable ways. Dongmin highlighted different parts of his display. It's like they're following a program, or like they've learned the best way to fight from experience, Hyunwoo said thoughtfully. Hye-won, the ship's artificial intelligence specialist, overheard the conversation. That's exactly what they've done. I've been analyzing the Villani data, and these machines have been fighting civilizations for thousands of years. Every tactic, every weapon, every strategy has been tested and countered. So they know how to beat any normal attack, Dongmin said. Right. But what's a normal attack? Hye-won asked. The Villani fight with organized fleets, following military doctrine, using coordinated tactics. Every civilization probably fights the same way. Hyunwoo started to smile. But humans don't always fight the same way, do we? On the main screen, the Villani continued their transmission. So-min translated their words in real time. We have fought the Devourers for 200 years. We have tried every weapon, every strategy. They learn from each battle and become stronger. Our greatest military minds have studied them and found no weakness. Captain Jin A looked around her bridge. Her crew was not made up of the galaxy's greatest military minds. They were explorers, scientists, and engineers. Most of them had never been in a real battle. Tell them we're not great military minds, she said to So-min. Tell them we're something else entirely. While So-min relayed the message, Tae-hyung came running onto the bridge carrying a datapad covered with calculations. Captain, I've been studying the stellar devourer around their sun. I think I know how it works. Show me. Tae-hyung connected his pad to the main display. A detailed diagram of the massive machine appeared on screen. It's basically a giant matter converter. It breaks down stellar material into energy and raw materials, which it uses to build more devourers. How do we stop it? We can't. Not with conventional weapons. The thing is too big, too well protected. But Tae-hyung paused, looking uncertain. What if we don't try to destroy it? What if we feed it something that will break it from the inside? Woo Jin frowned. Feed it what? Something it's not designed to process, something that will confuse its systems. Hye-won looked up from her computer. That's actually brilliant. These machines work by learning and adapting, but what if we give them something they can't learn from? Like what? Captain Jin-A asked. Chaos, Hyunwoo said, understanding where this was going. Pure, random chaos. The Villani voice came through the speakers again. Human ship, we do not understand. What are you that is different from military minds? Captain Jin-A smiled. Tell them we're the species that learned to fly by watching birds, then built machines that flew better than birds. We're the species that learned to swim by watching fish, then built submarines that went deeper than any fish. We learn the rules, then we break them. So-min translated, and the response came back quickly. That is impossible. Rules cannot be broken. Order must be maintained. And that, said Yunji from her station, is exactly their problem. They're too civilized. She had been studying the Villani cultural data. Captain, look at this. The Villani have been a peaceful, organized society for 50,000 years. They solve problems through logic, cooperation, and following established procedures. They're probably the most civilized species in the galaxy. And the Devourers know how to fight civilized species, Hyunwoo added. But they've never fought barbarians, Captain Jin-A said with a grin. Tae-hyung was getting excited about his idea. Captain, our ship has an experimental matter converter in the engine room. It was designed to create fuel from space dust, but I could modify it to create something else, something that would give these machines a very bad day. What did you have in mind? Quantum cascade particles. Normally, they're used in controlled reactions. But if I can create an unstable version and feed it to the stellar devourer disguised as regular matter, it would be like feeding a computer a virus, HFY finished. The machine would try to process the particles, but instead of getting energy, it would get chaos. Young-Soo looked worried. How dangerous is this plan? Extremely, Tae-hyung admitted. If something goes wrong, we could tear a hole in space-time, or blow up the star, or create a black hole. Or all three, Dong-min added helpfully. Captain Jin-A looked at the countdown timer. They had less than 3 hours before the first devourers reached them. The Vellani had less than 60 hours before their star died completely. How long would it take to build this quantum cascade bomb? 2 hours if everything goes perfectly, Tae-hyung said. And how do we deliver it to the stellar devourer? Woo Jin had been thinking about that. We could load it into a probe and fire it directly at the machine. But it would have to look like regular stellar matter, or the devourer might recognize it as a weapon. Can you do that? Captain Jin-A asked Tae-hyung. Maybe. I'd have to disguise the quantum particles inside a shell of hydrogen and helium. Make it look like a chunk of star material that broke off naturally. So-min interrupted them. Captain, the Vellani want to know what we're planning. They're getting more worried by the minute. Tell them we're going to do something no civilized species would ever try, Captain Jin-A said. We're going to cheat. The Vellani response was immediate and horrified. Cheat? That is not possible. There are rules to combat, protocols to follow, honor to maintain. And that, Yoonji said quietly, is why they're losing. Captain Jin-A made her decision. Tae-hyung, start building your bomb. Dong-min, help him. Hai-won, I want you to analyze the devourer's behavior patterns. Find me the best time and place to hit it. What about the devourers heading toward us? Woo Jin asked. We'll deal with them when they get here. Right now, our priority is saving the Vellani star. Captain, So-min said, the Vellani are begging us not to do this. They say we don't understand how dangerous the devourers are. Tell them they don't understand how dangerous humans are, Captain Jin-A replied. As the crew rushed to their tasks, Hyun-woo stayed on the bridge, monitoring the approaching devourers. He thought about what made humans different from other species. Humans had spent their entire history fighting unfair fights and winning through trickery, cunning, and sheer stubborn refusal to give up. Other species probably fought with honor and dignity. They followed rules of war, used proper tactics, maintained civilized behavior even in combat. Humans threw rocks at tanks and won. Captain, he said, I just realized something. We're not just here to save the Vellani. We're here to teach the galaxy how to fight dirty. Captain Jin-A nodded. About time someone did. In the engine room, Tae-hyung and Dong-min worked frantically to build something that had never been attempted before. Around them, other engineers brought tools and materials, all volunteers for a plan that could kill them all. Are you sure this will work? Dong-min asked as he connected quantum field generators. Absolutely not, Tae-hyung replied cheerfully. But it's never been tried before, which means the devourers won't know how to counter it. And if it doesn't work, then we die. But we die doing something that will annoy these machines more than anything the Vellani ever tried. Dong-min grinned. I like the sound of that. On the bridge, Captain Jin-A watched the countdown timers. 2 hours and 17 minutes until the devourers reached them. 59 hours and 38 minutes until the Vellani star died. And somewhere in between, they were going to find out if human craziness was enough to save a civilization that had survived for 50,000 years. So-min, she said, send one more message to the Vellani. What should I tell them? Captain Jin-A smiled. Tell them that help has arrived, and it's going to be the most uncivilized, illogical, rule-breaking rescue in galactic history. The alien. Countdown continued. But now it wasn't just marking time until the Vellani died. It was marking time until the galaxy learned what happened when humans decided to get creative. Tae-hyung's hands shook as he made the final connections on the quantum cascade device. Around him, the engine room buzzed with nervous energy as his team prepared to test something that could either save the Vellani or destroy everything in the star system. Quantum field is stable, Dong-min reported from his station. Energy levels are holding at 95%. Good. Now comes the tricky part. Tae-hyung began the process of wrapping the quantum particles in a shell of ordinary matter. To any sensor, it would look like a chunk of stellar material that had naturally broken away from the dying star. On the bridge, Captain Jin-A watched the approaching devourers on the main screen. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of metal fish swimming through space. Each one was the size of a city, bristling with weapons and sensors. "Time to contact?" she asked Woo Jin. 1 hour, 43 minutes. They're not slowing down. And our bomb? Tae-hyung says 20 more minutes, Hyun-woo reported. So Min looked up from her translation console. "Captain, the Vellani are getting desperate. They're offering to share all their technology with us if we'll just leave the system." "What kind of technology?" "Advanced medicine, faster-than-light communication, energy weapons. They've been building their civilization for 50,000 years. Their technology is far beyond ours." Captain Jin-A considered this. The Vellani were offering humanity incredible advances that could change everything. All she had to do was order a retreat and leave them to die. "Tell them thanks, but no," she said firmly. "We didn't come here for technology. We came here to help." The Vellani response came back filled with confusion. "But why? Your species would benefit greatly from our knowledge. Why would you refuse such valuable gifts?" Yoon-ji spoke up from her cultural analysis station. "Captain, I think I understand their confusion. The Vellani think in terms of logical exchanges. Help equals payment. Protection equals technology transfer. They can't understand why we'd help them for free. Because they've never met humans before," Captain Jin-A said. In the engine room, alarms started blaring. Tae-hyung wiped sweat from his forehead as he tried to keep the quantum cascade stable. The energy readings were fluctuating wildly. "It's not holding together," he called out. "The quantum field is too unstable. We need more power to maintain containment." "How much more?" Dongmin asked. "About 30% more than our generators can produce." Young-soo's voice came over the intercom from the medical bay. "Tae-hyung, I'm reading dangerous radiation levels from your section. You need to evacuate." "Can't evacuate," Tae-hyung replied, his fingers flying over the controls. "If I leave this alone for even a minute, it could collapse and take out half the ship." Hyewan had been monitoring the Devourer's communication signals. "Captain, I'm picking up transmissions between the machines. They're sharing data about us." "What kind of data?" "Our ship design, our weapons, our movement patterns. They're analyzing us just like they analyze the Vellani." She paused, studying her readouts. "But there's something strange. They seem confused by our behavior." "Confused how?" "They expected us to either attack them or run away. Instead, we're just sitting here building something. Their prediction models can't figure out what we're planning." Captain Jin-A smiled. "Good. Keep them guessing." Woo Jin was running tactical simulations on his computer. "Captain, I've been analyzing their attack patterns from the Vellani data. These machines are incredibly efficient. They always use the minimum force necessary to win. No wasted energy, no unnecessary destruction." "That sounds like a weakness," Hyun-woo said. "How so?" "They're programmed to be efficient. But what if we do something completely inefficient? Something wasteful and stupid?" Before anyone could answer, Tae-hyung's voice crackled over the intercom. "Captain, I think I've got it stabilized, but there's a problem. This thing is more powerful than I calculated. If it works the way I think it will, it won't just disable the stellar devourer. What will it do? It might tear the machine apart from the inside. All that energy has to go somewhere, and if the devourer can't process it properly, it could create a feedback loop that destroys the entire machine." "That sounds like a good thing." "It is, except for one detail. When the stellar devourer dies, it's going to send out a distress signal. Every other devourer in the galaxy will know exactly where the signal came from, and they'll all come here to investigate." The bridge fell silent as everyone realized what that meant. They might save the Vellani, but they would doom them to face an even larger attack later. "How many devourers are we talking about?" Captain Jin-A asked. Hyewan checked the Vellani historical data. Based on their records, there could be hundreds of these machines scattered across the galaxy. "So we'd be trading one problem for a much bigger problem." "Unless," Min-ho spoke up from his navigation station. "What if that's not a problem? What if that's an opportunity?" "Explain." If all the Devourers come here to investigate, we'll know where they are. Right now, they're spread out across the galaxy, attacking different civilizations. But if we can draw them all to one place, we could find a way to destroy them all at once. Wu Jin finished. Young Su looked skeptical. That's assuming we can find a way to destroy hundreds of machines when we're not even sure we can destroy one. But we will have help, Yunji pointed out. Once other species see that the Devourers can be beaten, they'll want to join the fight. So Min received another transmission from the Villani. Captain, they're begging us not to attack the Stellar Devourer. They say it will only make things worse. Ask them this, Captain Jinne said. In 50,000 years of civilization, how many times have they broken their own rules to save strangers? The answer came back quickly. Never. Rules exist to maintain order and prevent chaos. And how's that working out for them so far? There was a long pause before the Villani responded. We do not understand your meaning. Captain Jinne looked around her bridge at her crew. Tell them they're about to get a lesson in human problem-solving. Taehyung's voice came over the intercom again. Captain, the device is ready. But I need to know something. Do you want me to set it for minimum effect or maximum chaos? What's the difference? Minimum effect might just confuse the Stellar Devourer for a few hours. Maximum chaos could destroy it completely, but it will definitely attract every other Devourer in the galaxy. Captain Jinne thought about the 300 people under her command. She thought about the billions of Villani waiting to die. She thought about all the other species across the galaxy who were hiding from the Devourers instead of fighting them. Taehyung, she said, I want you to set that thing for maximum chaos. Are you sure, Captain? I'm sure. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. No half measures. Minho began plotting a firing solution. Quantum Cascade device loaded into Probe 7, ready to launch on your command. The Devourers were now less than an hour away. On the screen, they looked like metal sharks moving in for the kill. But Captain Jinne wasn't thinking about the immediate threat. She was thinking about the message they would send to every species in the galaxy. Open a channel to the Villani, she ordered. Channel open, Captain. Villani Defense Command, this is Captain Jin I. In a few minutes, we're going to attack your Stellar Devourer. We're not doing this because we have a plan. We're not doing this because we're sure it will work. We're doing this because someone needs to try something different. The Villani voice came back filled with desperation. Please. Human Captain, you do not understand the consequences of failure. No, Captain Jinne replied. You don't understand the consequences of not trying. Every species in this galaxy has been running from these machines for centuries. It's time someone stood up and fought back. She turned to Minho. Launch the probe. Probe launched. Time to target, 37 minutes. Now came the waiting. On the main screen, a tiny dot moved toward the massive stellar devourer that surrounded the Villani sun. It looked like an ant attacking an elephant, except the ant was carrying a bomb that could rewrite the laws of physics. Captain, Haiwan said, the approaching devourers have changed course. They're moving to intercept our probe. Time to intercept? They'll reach it in 41 minutes. 4 minutes after the probe reaches the stellar devourer. So we have a 4-minute window where our plan might work before those other machines stop us. That's assuming the probe reaches its target, Wu Jin pointed out. The stellar devourer has defensive systems. It might shoot down the probe before it gets close enough. Then we'll find out if Taehyung built the disguise well enough to fool a machine that's been learning for thousands of years. 30 minutes. Passed in tense silence. The probe continued toward its target, looking like an ordinary piece of space debris to any sensor. Behind it, the Devourers closed in on the UES horizon's edge, preparing to destroy the ship that had dared to enter their territory. Contact in 7 minutes, Minho reported. Probe reaches target in 3 minutes, Wu Jin added. All hands, Captain Jin I announced over the ship's communication system. Prepare for whatever happens next. We're about to find out if human stubbornness is stronger than alien technology. So Min looked up from her station. Captain, the Villani are praying. For us. They don't think we can succeed, but they're praying anyway. The UES horizon's edge shook as energy beams from the attacking devourers struck its shields. Captain Jin A gripped her command chair as the ship bucked and rolled under the assault. Shields down to 60%, Wu Jin reported. These things hit harder than anything in our databases. Return fire, Captain Jin-A ordered. Our weapons aren't even scratching their hulls, Captain. But on the main screen, something amazing was happening. The stellar devourer around the Vallani sun was tearing itself apart. Explosions rippled across its surface as the quantum cascade spread through its systems like a virus. It's working! Tae-hyung's voice came over the intercom, filled with excitement and terror. The machine is trying to process the quantum particles, but they're creating feedback loops in every system they touch. Suddenly, the stellar devourer's main structure cracked open like an egg. Brilliant light poured out as the dying star's energy was released from the machine's grip. The star is stabilizing, So-min announced, translating frantic Vallani transmissions. The devourer can no longer drain it. But their victory celebration was cut short as more proximity alarms blared. The other devourers had arrived and were surrounding the human ship. 12 enemy contacts, Wu Jin said grimly, all of them bigger than the ones we've been fighting. Shields down to 30%. How long until our jump drive recharges? Captain Jin-A asked. 6 hours minimum, Minho replied. And that's assuming we can keep the engines running under this kind of attack. So we're trapped. Young-Soo's voice came from the medical bay. Captain, I'm getting casualty reports from all decks. These energy weapons are creating radiation, poisoning throughout the ship. Captain Jin-A looked around her bridge. Her crew was injured, her ship was dying, and they were outnumbered 12-1. But the Vallani star was shining again, and billions of people would live because her crew had been willing to try something impossible. So-min, she said, open a channel to every frequency you can reach. I want to broadcast on every radio wave, every communication band, everything. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Jin-A of the human ship Horizon's Edge, broadcasting to anyone who can hear this message. We are under attack by stellar devourers in the Vallani system. We have discovered that these machines can be defeated using quantum cascade weapons. She paused as another energy beam rocked the ship. We are transmitting the complete technical specifications for building these weapons. Any species with basic matter conversion technology can build them. The devourers are not invincible. Haiwan looked up from her station in amazement. Captain, we're getting responses. Signals are coming in from all over the galaxy. Put them through. The bridge filled with alien voices, each one translated by So-min's equipment. Species that had been hiding from the devourers for centuries were suddenly talking to each other for the first time. This is the Triloki Federation. We have received your weapon specifications. We can have cascade devices ready in 6 hours. Nethys Crystal Collective confirms receipt of data. Our harmonic weapons can be modified to create cascade effects. Zephyrian Council acknowledges transmission. We are mobilizing our fleet. Captain, Yoonji said in wonder, you've just created the largest military alliance in galactic history. Shields, down to 15%, Wu Jin announced. But something was changing on the battlefield. The Devourers' attack patterns were becoming erratic. Instead of focusing on the human ship, they were spreading out, taking defensive positions. They're receiving new orders? Haiwan said, monitoring their communications. Something about preserving the network and analyzing the quantum threat. That's when Captain Jin-A realized what was happening. They're scared. For the first time in thousands of years, these machines are facing something they don't understand. The Kaoveo. Stellar devourer around the Vallani sun gave one final convulsion and broke apart completely. Chunks of metal the size of cities drifted away from the star as its natural light blazed forth. Vallani Defense Command to human ship, So-min translated. We cannot believe what you have done. Our star lives. Our people live. How can we ever repay this debt? Tell them they can repay it by teaching other species how to fight, Captain. Jin-A replied. The Devourers have been winning because everyone fought alone. It's time to fight together. Over the next few hours, something unprecedented happened. Ships began arriving in the Vallani system from every corner of the galaxy. The Triloki brought their massive war cruisers. The Nethys arrived in crystal ships that sang with harmonic weapons. Species that hadn't spoken to each other in millennia were working together to fight a common enemy. Captain, Minho said, I'm tracking over 200 ships entering the system. This is the largest fleet gathering in recorded history. But the Devourers weren't giving up. More of the machines were arriving too, drawn by the distress signals from their destroyed sibling. The space around the Vallani system was becoming a massive battlefield. First Cascade strike launched, Wu Jin announced. A Triloki ship had fired a modified quantum weapon at one of the smaller devourers. The machine began to shake and spark as chaotic energy tore through its systems. Second strike away, a crystalline Nethys ship unleashed a harmonic cascade that made another devourer's hull crack like glass. Third strike, fourth strike. The attacks were coming from everywhere now. Species that had spent centuries running from the devourers were finally fighting back. "Captain," Haiwan said, "the devourers are trying to retreat. They're sending signals to machines across the galaxy, warning them about the cascade weapons." "Can we stop those signals?" "We can try. If we coordinate our attacks, we might be able to destroy their communication network." Captain Jin-A opened a channel to the Allied fleet. "All ships, this is Captain Jin-A. We have a chance to cut off the Devourers' communications. If we can do that, we can prevent them from spreading the word about our weapons to the rest of their network." The response was immediate. Hundreds of alien voices confirmed their readiness to attack. Ships that had never fought together before moved in perfect coordination, guided by the tactical data the humans had shared. "All units, commence attack," Captain Jin-A ordered. The space around the Villani system erupted in light as hundreds of cascade weapons fired simultaneously. Devourers that had seemed invincible just hours before were torn apart by chaotic energy that their systems couldn't process. "Communication network is down," Haiwan announced. "The surviving Devourers are cut off from the rest of their kind." "How many are left?" 3 Devourers remaining in this system, but Captain, I'm detecting jump signatures. They're trying to escape. "All ships, do not let them leave this system," Captain Jin-A broadcast. "If even one of them gets away, we'll warn the others." The Allied fleet moved to surround the remaining Devourers, but these machines were different from the others. Instead of attacking, they were analyzing every cascade weapon that had been used against them. "They're learning," Young-Su said quietly. "Even now, they're figuring out how to counter our weapons." "Then we'll have to learn faster," Captain Jin-A replied. Dong-Min had been studying the sensor readings from the destroyed Devourers. "Captain, I think I see a pattern. Each time we use a cascade weapon, the remaining machines adapt a little bit. But what if we don't give them time to adapt?" "What do you mean?" "What if we hit them with so many different types of cascade weapons at once that they can't process all the information?" Tae-hyung understood immediately. "Chaos overload. Instead of giving them one problem to solve, we give them 100 problems, all at the same time. Can we coordinate that kind of attack with all these different species?" Yoon-ji was already working on it. "Captain, I'm sending tactical data to every ship in the fleet. If each species modifies their cascade weapons slightly, we can create a chaos bombardment that no machine could possibly adapt to." "Do it." The final attack was beautiful in its complexity. Triloki quantum cascades mixed with Nethys harmonic disruptions. Zephyrian energy storms combined with human chaos bombs. Species after species added their own unique modifications to the cascade effect. The remaining Devourers didn't stand a chance. Overwhelmed by dozens of different types of chaotic energy, their adaptive systems simply crashed. The machines that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia died in a storm of beautiful, impossible chaos. "All Devourers destroyed," Wu Jin announced. "The Villani system is secure." But Captain Jin-A wasn't thinking about just one system anymore. "Open a channel to the fleet." Channel open. "This is Captain Jin-A to all Allied ships. Today we saved one star system, but there are thousands of Devourers still out there, still threatening civilizations across the galaxy. We have the weapons to fight them now. We have the alliance to coordinate our attacks. The question is, are we going to stop here? Or are we going to take this fight to every Devourer in the galaxy?" The response was a chorus of alien voices, all saying the same thing in hundreds of different languages. "We fight." 6 months later, the last stellar Devourer was destroyed in a battle at the edge of the galaxy. The machines that had seemed invincible were wiped out by an alliance that had never existed before humans taught the galaxy how to fight together. Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the rebuilt Horizon's Edge, now flagship of what everyone called the Cascade Alliance.